This is really about your inner life. How do you feel? How do you respond? And part of my talk is from a gentleman by the name of Scott Aubrey, who has, in fact, if you're interested, you can go to his website called spiritualpassages.org. I mention him because the first quote today is from him. And it's funny, when I started this, I looked at this topic and I went, I'm not sure what this really means. It just sounded kind of like an oxymoron. How do you have imperfect practices, right? Sounds weird to me. Anyway, back to the song. He says this, and I think I want you to understand today we're going to talk a lot about our physical body. I'm going to use that as the example. How many people here have something going on with their physical body? Everybody raise your hand. We all do. Mine is going to be my knee. And I had surgery and my hand is doing pretty good. Anyway, here's what Scott says. Reverend Scott says, today I am less about the relative world. That means that stuff outside of competing and conforming, and more about the absolute qualities of creativity, gratitude, and authenticity. I move through this day wakefully, mindfully of what's life-affirming for me and those around me. I am blessed. I am a blessing. And I want you to know that too. I want you, in fact, our affirmation at the end is about creating the world we want to have, and knowing that we have that consciousness around that and that we can do that with ease. So we're going to talk about perfectly imperfect ideas and why it's important. How many people, I have asked this before a couple weeks ago, how many people are perfectionists? We got a few of those. Okay, good. The problem with let me just say, and 2 weeks ago I asked my congregation to say, bless the perfectionists and the imperfectionists, bless the imperfectionists, because we need them, because you get in trouble, don't you? Yeah, so you need them. And then the opposite is true. But the problem, or a challenge I should say, I don't like to use the word problem, is that when we are totally trying to do everything perfectly, we tend to neglect everything else around us, right? I can only see this far. And the thing is everything else around us is perfect too. So we want to pay attention, widen those blinders so that we can see everything, not just what we think it has to be. The tendency is to get stuck. Come on up here. Hi. As we get stuck, we get stagnant, and we close up. I used to have a business partner who eventually I had to get rid of because they got paralyzed. They got paralyzed in what they were doing, which meant that I didn't get informed of things that needed to be informed. So being a perfectionist is good, but I'm inviting us to go wider than that. How many people have heard the phrase, practice makes perfect? I'll give that to an athlete. An athlete needs to think that way. Needs to visualize that, needs to perform in that way. But in life, there really is no perfection. I used the analogy, I think, a couple of weeks ago about my house. When I bought my house, we had to redo everything inside, everything. And because of that, you want to make it perfect, right? Well, I've learned that there's no square wall in my house. It's perfectly imperfect because it fits together and it all holds perfectly. But it's all imperfect. The thing is, we have to look at the beauty of it all, not just that it's straight. Like I have walls that are made with American clay. What's cool about that is you put on a green, purple, whatever color of the wall, but when the sun comes through, and some of you from Arizona, right? When the sun comes through, the color changes. It's kind of cool. It's very earthy on the inside. So I'm going to start with a little story. And I'm going to try and remember everything, but the story is about this. Being in hot water and what happens within us. So, story goes, once upon a time, right? A daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and she didn't know how she was going to make it. Young girl. Anybody felt that way? Yeah. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It just seemed like one problem was solved and then another one would come up. Does that sound familiar? It's always going on, right? Well, her father was a chef, and he took her to the kitchen, and he filled 3 pots with water, and he placed each of them on a very high fire. And for about 20 minutes, he didn't say anything until they started to boil. Then he placed in one pot potatoes. The second pot, he put eggs. And the third pot, he put ground coffee beans. And then he let them sit and boil without talking to his daughter. So she's got 40 minutes of nothing, right? Can you imagine how frustrated she is? Well, the daughter moaned and impatiently waited, wondering what he was doing. Why are you doing this, Dad? Why don't you just talk to me and tell me the story, right? Well, after a while, he turned the burners off. He took the potatoes out, and he placed them in a bowl. Then he took the eggs out, and he put them in another bowl. And then he took the coffee, and he put it in a cup. And so she could smell the coffee. He says, so, daughter, what do you see? She says, potatoes, eggs, and coffee. That's all I see. He said, well, look a little closer. Touch the potatoes. So she touches the potatoes, and they're soft. Oh, interesting. And she noted that they were soft, and he asked, well, then take a look at the eggs, and why don't you break it open? So she had to, tap through the shell, and then when she, it's hard. Oh, interesting. And finally said, take a sip of the coffee. So she did, she smiled. Oh, this is really great. And Father says to her, or she says, Father, what does this mean? He explained that the potato, the eggs, and coffee beans had each faced the same adversity. The boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato was strong and hardy and unrelenting until you put it into the water and it boiled and it became soft and weak. Come on in, Robin. The egg was fragile, but then the thin outer lining protected what was inside, the liquid, till it became solid. But the coffee grounds beans were unique. They did something different. When they were exposed to the water, they created something new. Coffee. So my question is, he's asked to her, which are you? Which are you? When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? This is about you. Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean? So I thought a lot about this, and I thought, life happens around us. Things just happen. They do. We don't expect it. We don't know. We're going through transitions where bodies are changing. So I wrote this down, and I thought, well, it's a pretty good analogy. When that means all of us here, encounter a difficulty, how do you respond? Do you act tough and eventually soften? That's me. Do you act confused and fragile, like the egg? Then your hard shell starts to, break off, or do we face the fire? This is the change. This is the coffee. Do we face the fire, become vulnerable, and get out of our comfort zone? And I allow our authentic self to become. Who does that? Anybody here do that? Oh, somebody raise your hand. You do. You try. Not every time. I think I do a little bit of everything. I want you to think about that today while I'm talking, because we're going to talk about the body, and I'll talk a little tiny bit about my vacation, but mainly my vacation based upon my right knee, which is going to need surgery, okay? It just is. And that's just the way it is. Science Mind says this. It says, embracing imperfection and change is rooted in the understanding that life constantly evolves. Our bodies constantly evolve. We recognize that perfection is not attainable and embrace the beauty of imperfection as an integral part of our growth and expansion. Acknowledging the concept of imperfection is not enough. We must actively embrace it through our daily practice. This involves stepping out of our comfort zones, challenging ourselves, and being open to new experiences, unlocking the vast potential within us. So, I have 3 things to talk about, and I wanted to first say, on my vacation, was it hot here? And who had air conditioning? Who had air conditioning? Raise your hand, y'all. Had no. Those of you that, okay. In Mammoth, it was hot and no air conditioning. So it was weird. It was very strange. So the point I want to make is that in the morning we went and hiked. In the evening we went and hiked. During the day we closed everything down. And at one point during the week it was like, we're bored. But to come back to San Diego wasn't a solution because it was hot here. Right? Anyway, over the last 2 months, last month or so, I've had 4 injections into my knee, which supposedly, and it's okay, I supposedly was going to help eliminate the suffering that I have sometimes. And so this was my test. This was my test to find out if my knee would function properly. It was about 50%. But I bring this up because we think of our bodies as being a perfect unit, right? And as we age, in fact, I don't know, I think I gave this lecture to somebody that was young. I said, take care of your body, whether you realize it or not. Anyway, as we age, things change. And I don't know about you, but I'm having a little trouble with that, right? It's tough. And so we have to look at things differently. We have to change the way that we approach our body and instead say, okay, what is possible today? But we can't be, as much as we don't want our bodies to be perfect, right? I talk about perfection. It imperfect. But there are ways to manage it. So, I'm going to weave my story into the different points. So the first point is the idea of perfect practices means we embrace the understanding that perfection is an unattainable goal. That's the first thing. So instead of trying to make it perfect, we have to look beyond that. Look for the beauty and growth that comes from embracing imperfection. So in the morning when we went on this hike with my puppy, who was off leash, oh my God, he would go, half a football field and then look back and say, are you there? He was very cute. But he would come back. So that worked out okay. But when we are struggling with the body, we have to shift. We have to look at things. So since this was my test, I was looking at, well, how do I walk? Can I go up? Can I go down? And I still had trouble. Not that it was horrible, but I had to change my focus. I say this to you because we have to change our focus. I had to look at the imperfection of my knee and say, okay, how do I go down now? How do I go down the little hill? We're talking a little hill. How do I go up? Up was easy, down was hard. But I paid attention to it. So I'm looking beyond than just saying, well, I'm going to have be easy. One thing that I really learned is that I have to take a stick with me now. Sometimes we have to do that. We bring the extra to help us. And I say this to you because I think that all of us have this going on all the time. We have to realize sometimes we have to have something to support us. And there is nothing wrong with that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, good. But we have to develop resilience in this new way of being and tap into our creative potential. Instead of saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I just won't go hiking. I just won't do this. We have to move beyond and keep moving. This one's a hard one. We have to let go of self-imposed expectations. My expectations, I'm still, 30. It don't work no more. Instead of that, I have to look at it and say, what do I need to do to take care of me, and how do I continue to make improvements? So I'm planning to have my knee done in about 5 months. I'm already preparing for that. Because I know, as I've heard from a few of us that have had it done, that it takes a while to recover. Now, that doesn't mean I won't be here. It just means I'll be in a different capacity. But I have such incredible speakers like Jerry and Sherry and Natasha that are just brilliant people. And I know they're going to be here for me. That's what we do. We the expectations change, but we change with them. And from that, I'm discovering more about myself, of how I can, I've mentioned you, I'm writing this book about all the spiritual words. And I'm just I'm enthralled with doing this. So this is giving me something to do during that time. Anyway, I just think it's important that we change our expectations and figure out how do we make it better for ourselves. Stephen Covey says this. He says, every human has 4 endowments: self-awareness, consciousness, independent will, and creative imagination. These give us the ultimate human freedom, the power to choose, to respond, and to change. Who likes to change here?
Sometimes.
A few of you, okay. It's hard. It's not easy, right?
Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Sometimes you don't have a choice.
Well, if you don't make the decision,
Then it made for you. That's right. So the second point is we have to step out of our comfort zone. I actually have a sign that says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So we have to be able to embrace the unfamiliar, challenge ourselves to go beyond. Who has a hard time going beyond? None of you? Okay, I'm done then. The thing is, we have to be able to take risks, face uncertainty, and explore new ways, just like I talked about with my knee. And the reason I bring me up is because I want you to think about yourself. I'm just an example. But what's going on with you? How can you move past that? Another thing is you have to identify areas where you're stagnant. Is anybody stagnant these days? Yeah. Where is that? And it's like a prayer. If you're stagnant or you're not sure what to do, is to go into it and ask yourself, what is it I need to know to be revealed to me? What do I need to know? And just allow everything in the world to come up. Because when you do that, you're tapping into the infinite wisdom that's already out there. And it's meant for you. Not for anybody else, just for you. Because it's your mind with the ultimate mind, trying to figure it out. The last thing is, on this one is, if you're stagnant, I know for myself, I don't really want to feel this in my body. Right? Anybody else want to not feel it in their body? So instead of trying to leap over and doing more than I can do, is do a little bit. So I'll give you an example. One of the hikes that we took, it was in the evening. It's called Horseshoe, if anybody's been there. It's a really cool, it's like not a pond, it's a big lake, okay, and it's surrounded, but it's in a horseshoe shape. And so when you walk, when you first get there, it's like a beach, but you get to let your dog go. You don't have to have a leash on him. So we let the dogs go. Now it's downhill. Guess who's holding the cane going downhill? All right. And of course, Cindy likes to walk, 5,000 miles. At least 4 miles. And so, but you actually walk around the lake like this, and on this side, it's, there's a, I don't know how to describe, methane area, where if you walk too far, you actually get a little dizzy, so you don't go that far, but you can go halfway. Anyway, the trail goes in and out on the upper side, in and out with lots of trees. There's people climbing rocks and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And then you can also walk, in most cases, around the edge of the bottom. But there are areas you can't walk. Anyway, so we did the normal thing. I don't remember what day this was. We did the normal thing. Dogs are having a great time, and I'm like, my knee's not happy. So I'm going to go up to the top and walk the other way. Well, we'd walk probably a good 2, maybe 3 miles. And I'm like, I'm just tired. Because you're also at 11,000 feet. So, you've got to deal with that. Anyway, so I said, well, I'll just sit here, over here, and there's a whole area of trees, and of course I keep thinking about the bears, right? Anybody have that bear thought? Yeah. So I said, well, you guys keep walking, I'll sit here. So I sat there for maybe 5 minutes. I'm thinking, God, there's got to be a bear out there. I'm not having a good time. So I thought, well, I'll tell you what, maybe I'll go walk around the edge of the water. So it is actually a cute story. So I'm walking, and I thought, well, I'll just walk. And there was a path. Oh, my God, there was a path for me. So I didn't have to go all the way around to get to the horseshoe. I could go this way to the horseshoe. Different directions, right? So I get out there, and I'm walking. I'm having a good time with myself, nobody around me. And I see the 2 dogs and Cindy. And I thought, oh, this is cool. I can go there myself now, right? So I start walking, and I whistle to the puppy. Guess what he does? Is that you? Is that really you? And then I put my arms up. I've got a white shirt on so you can really see me. I put my arms up. He's like, oh, that's you! And guess what he does? He runs to me. Oh, it was so adorable. I was like, oh, this made my whole hike. Again, discovering a different way to go. Working with my body. Listening to myself. Listening to the bears in my head, right? Paying attention. And then walking the way that I could walk. That's what we have to do. We have to look at life differently than just, I got to take the trail. I got to take the hard way. We have to simplify, and to be compassionate with ourselves. Who's hard on themselves? All of us. We need to stop that. Let's see, Eckhart Tolle says this. He has a really good quote. He says, when challenges come, as they always do, make it a habit to go within at once, and focus as much as you can on the inner energy field of your body. That was me talking about my bears and my feelings. Attention is the key to transformation, and full attention also implies acceptance. So when I realized I couldn't walk, I had to accept that. Attention is like a beam of light, the focus power of your consciousness that transmutes everything into itself. So it's just paying attention. It's not beating yourself up. It's frustrating. Anybody frustrated? Yeah, it's frustrating. But knowing that we just keep moving, you never stop moving. So the last thing I want to talk about is Ernest Holmes says, test this stuff. That's the grandest statement anybody has ever said to me. And it means test your belief in the possibilities. Test the principles and test the human efforts. You have to do it all. Because if you just do a little bit, you only get a little bit of the return. So test it all. Don't be afraid to seek out new opportunities. Yay, I think we are up now. Have they been watching? Oh, good, okay. We have to embrace the imperfections that are going on and accept I think this is the hardest one for me. Accept that we will make mistakes. Can't tell you how many times I forgot that darn stick. And setbacks. And what it takes to learn a new way. But these are the new ways are for growth. We will grow through that. I know I will grow through this. I'm so much more compassionate with somebody that is injured now than I ever have been. Because I look at it and go, I understand how you feel. And we have, I think, one of our members, I don't think she's with us today, who fell recently. And I'm like, oh, I feel so bad about that. I feel sorry for them. I'm compassionate for them. Here's what I want you to remember. If you get anything out of this, and I have, I'll conclude with the reading I'm doing, is I want you to realize that you're perfect just the way you are. You will change over time. We will all change over time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It's what we make it out to be wrong. Instead of realizing that we're just changing and transitioning and moving into a new phase maybe of our life. But Spirit's with you the whole time. You're never alone during this. It's about calling it forward. It's about calling it forward. And I wrote this down when this is really for all of you, which I think that everybody here is amazing. Because I know you to some degree. And I watch the struggles and I watch the how do I make this happen? And what I know is that you keep trying because you come here and you do the work. So I thank you for being willing to do that. So I'm going to conclude with something I've just started reading this book called Jesus' Alternative Plan. And I think it's pretty cool. It's by Richard Rohr. Anyway, I just, when I get books like this, I just kind of go, Well, I happen to come upon the exact thing I needed to tell you today. So, I have 2 slides on this, and I'll read it to you. We don't talk about Jesus a lot, but I think it's important. We follow his teachings. We might as well start talking a little bit about him. For Jesus, faith is not opposed to not believing in God. It doesn't mean you go to church or that you're into religion or that you say, Lord, Lord. Faith for Jesus is the opposite of anxiety. Oh, new thought, right? If we are anxious, if we are trying to control everything, if we are worried about many things, we don't have faith. We do not trust that God is good and on our side. We are trying to do it all ourselves. Lift ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Who here is like that? Don't raise your hand. We are all like that to some degree. Here's the key. I love what he says. Can you forward it for me, please? The gateway is control. That's a good litmus test of the quality of your faith. People of faith don't have to control everything, nor do they have to change people. We have the wisdom to know the difference. As the 12th step says, we cannot fix the soul. Set your heart on God first and on God's grace. Justice and all these other things will be given to you as well. So do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So I'm invite you just to focus on the divine. When I really am in trouble meaning my mind goes all the time or I can't solve a problem, I have to cause myself, make myself calm down. And I close my eyes and then within moments I just say, reveal to me that which I need to know. And then shut up. Not just my mouth, but my brain. And you know what happens? Within moments, that which I need to know is revealed. And I don't ignore it. I go do what that says. And I've been doing this now for, a long time. And I haven't been misled. So trust yourself. Trust that divine intuition. Trust that Spirit's talking to you. And then with that, if there's a feeling that comes along with that, see if it needs to be healed. See if there's something out that just, there's an edge there. Follow that too. Because I want you to have the purest feeling of the divine that's guiding and directing you and making you know that you're perfect, whole, and complete just the way you are. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. So today, I'm going to pray us out in a minute, but each one of you, I gave you some of the quotes that I used, and then there's some questions on the back that you can employ. And then I also put some music recommendations. Karen Drucker and Melissa and Z and Melissa Felipe, which is the same Melissa, sing some really beautiful songs. So I want you to do this. Do this for yourself. It's not about me. It's about you. Do it for you. And then let me know. It's okay to report back to me. I love to hear your stories of how you do. So I'm going to pray us in, and so I invite you to close your eyes, and then we'll have James back up, and then I'm going to mention something about the song you're going to sing. It's really special to me. So let's close our eyes and just take a moment to breathe. Take in a deep breath. Let it out. One more time. Deep breath. And let it out. Let us know that we are fully connected to that infinite presence that we call God. Last night I put together the words of God, and there were over 206 words for God. That infinite wisdom, divine soul, the I am. Let us know that we're connected at a cellular level. Not just because I say so, but because you are. That the divine moves through each and every one of us in so many various ways. Speaking to us, talking to us, feeling us, we feel it. And so I know today, as I talk about the perfection of imperfection, that we are listening to ourselves. We are listening to that divine guide that moves through us. And we're no longer afraid of what that says, but instead listens, honors, and embraces. And so today, as we leave this sanctuary, I know that we take this message and it will recall to us when we get in that stuck place again to just relax, to have faith in the divine, and to know that we are everything is in perfect order. And so I bless each of you that are here, those that are online, those that are on their way, those that will watch us later, those that are on YouTube that we can't see. But know that those that are all that hear this message, there's one small part that rings true for each one of us. And so we hold on to that, and we remember that, and we give grace for that. And so with that, I simply give great thanks for everyone that is listening, for the divine source of spirit that moves through me and moves through my knee and my puppy and your lives. I'm grateful. I release these words into the infinite law of mind and love, and let it be, and so it is. Amen. Thank you very much. Come on up.